So in my last video, I gave you a full physical tour of my property, muddy spots, black walnuts, drainage issues, and all. Today I want to slow things down and show you what comes before any real digging or planting, which is planning. I've learned the hard way that if I skip this step and jump straight into planting, I end up redoing a lot of work later. So this time, I'm slowing down, giving myself some permission to think and just play around before I commit to anything. I'll be honest, even though I know this step is one of the most important, it's also the one that overwhelms me most. So instead of pretending that I have all this figured out, I just wanted to show you how I'm actually working through it in real time and actually hear how you would do it differently. I'm loosely inspired by an approach I saw recently from Wild Ones, an organization doing incredible work helping people rethink lawns and design landscapes that actually function as ecosystems. You can find a link to their video in my video description. What I really liked wasn't a specific design or plant list, it was the structure, a way to break a big, overwhelming project into something manageable. So today I'll be adapting that approach to my own yard and my own realities. So my starting point is this aerial photo of my property. I downloaded it for free from the Montgomery County website. I saved it as a JPEG and opened it up in Photos so I can mark it up like a sketch. It's not a detailed design. I'm not choosing plants yet. I'm just working through kind of the big picture moves. So the first step is I'm going to mark what's fixed, things that aren't going anywhere. The house, the driveway, patios, etc. So I'm going to open up my little edit tool right here. I'm going to open the markup and I'm going to start to mark what all the fixed stuff is going to be. So I'm going to start with the house. I'm going to use white, and actually no, I'm going to use something a little bit thicker. I'm going to change the line to this. All right. So this is the house outline. I'm going to mark the window well here. That's not going anywhere. Then I'm going to mark the driveway, which extends out here. I'm going to mark my deck, which you kind of can't see from this aerial shot because of this shadow, but it goes kind of like that. And then there is a little bit of existing pavement here, which I'll mark, but we plan on redoing later. There's also two fences on each side of the house. We've got a dog, so we need to keep it in. Let's see, I think that's it for the house. Then I'm going to move into the back. So here I've got a shed, a small one right here. I've got my vegetable garden, which is kind of right here. And then I'm going to mark some mature trees that I plan on keeping. These are two black walnuts that are sort of, here and here. There's two tulip poplars on this side. I'm going to kind of put it here, and I'm going to draw their canopies. And just put these in circles like this, and I'm going to make it thinner so that they don't take up space on the sketch. The tulip poplars are a little bit smaller in terms of canopy size, so I'll adjust these. Just, these don't have to be perfect, but I do want it to be realistic. So there you go. This is basically it in terms of things I plan to keep. So now, right alongside what's fixed, I'm also going to mark my pain points. For me, the biggest one is water. So I'm going to mark where it enters the property, where it pools, where it moves too fast. A lot of the work I'm planning is tied to stormwater and conservation landscaping. I'm not going to get into all the details here. That's going to be a separate video, but I do want to flag the areas that will eventually become conservation landscapes because they're going to shape the final design. So I'm going to use blue for this. Let me... Let's see if that worked. Yep. So there's a lot of water that comes in through here. There is the property is on a slight slope, so it slopes down from left to right. And so there's a lot of water that kind of comes in through here and kind of trickles sort of this way and a little bit that way. There's also water that comes in through here, through a dry river rock bed that starts at the neighbors. And so you've got water that comes in through here and kind of pools in this area. Then there's also some downspouts from the neighbors that are coming through here and kind of pooling in this area right here. And then there's also some additional downspouts that are coming through this side, like that, and creating some pooling issues right here, right next to the foundation of the house, which is a problem. And then I also have a downspout on this side of the house that kind of goes this way. So I'll just kind of, yeah. And it's hurting a lot of the plants that I have here. The water, the soil is basically very clogged because of this downspout here. So this is another area where water pools and I'm going to have to deal with it. So that is it for the water. Next, I want to sketch how we actually move through the yard. Wild Ones suggest starting by drawing a loose loop around your house or property, basically asking yourself, how would I walk someone through my space if I were giving them a tour of the house and they wanted to see everything? And this isn't because I'm building this path tomorrow, but because I want to design, I want the design to reflect how we actually use the space and how we want to use it. This really helped me to stop thinking in just random planting beds and actually start thinking in zones. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to mark this green, and I want this to be a little bit thicker so you can see kind of how I would flow through this property. So I'd probably start here in my driveway. So I'd walk up this way, walk along here, you know, past this fence. I'd walk them here and walk towards my vegetable garden. I'd kind of do like a little bit of a loop around, and then I'd come back through here and past these black walnuts, and then through the other side of the house, through this fence, all along here and back to the driveway. So in an ideal world, this is how I would naturally flow through my property. And so the idea is to have this path actually connect to the destinations. Essentially what they are places to sit, pause, gather, or just kind of exist outside. So the key here is to keep these shapes intentionally loose. This isn't about precision, it's really about possibility. But the basic idea is you want this path to connect different quote unquote rooms or destinations on your property. So I've already mentioned the vegetable garden, and I'm going to actually delineate these in brown. So I've already indicated my vegetable garden. That is for me one of the main destinations on my property. I love it. I love to go there and sit there and enjoy it. So that's staying. Some additional destinations include a garden bench I might want to install here. I want basically a fire pit area that's right alongside. Oh, this is a little too big. Let's see. I want a fire pit area that's kind of here. And then I also want an outdoor kitchen that's going to be right here. So these are kind of the main additional areas. So the seating area here that's going to have a fire pit, the outdoor kitchen. And again, these are not exact, like I'll have to refine the shape that they actually will take. In the end, these are just sort of placeholders, and then a little bench so I can actually sit here and look at my garden. The other thing I wanted to include are, and I'm going to put this in maybe a darker green, is I have 2 kids. I have a husband that also loves to play soccer. And so we do want to keep an area of the yard that's just free of any pavement or anything like that. So I'm just going to kind of include an open grassy area here where we're just going to kind of keep it free. But it is worth delineating it because that's not negative space that we're going to just plant stuff on. It is going to be grass or turf. So that's it for kind of the destinations. Once the fixed elements, the movement, the destinations are drawn down, everything else becomes what Wild Ones refers to as negative space, the areas that haven't been assigned a specific use case yet. In their work, that space often becomes wilder. Well, hence the name Wild Ones. They're trying to get more people to make their lawns, turn their lawns into wild spaces, maybe a meadow or a more naturalized planting. For me, though, this is where ecology and design really come together in a very specific way because water is such a big driver on this property, where it flows, where it pools, where it needs to slow down. These are areas that are naturally going to point me towards conservation landscaping. So I'm going to mark up in hot pink the zones where I plan to install conservation landscapes, not because that's the right answer, but because it's the answer that makes sense for this specific site. And that's really the key here. You want what you want to do with this, with your space should be informed by your conditions, whether that's sun or shade or wet or dry, as well as your own taste and how you want the space to feel. So, what I'm going to do is, given that I have water kind of coming through here in this direction and here, what I plan to do is to install conservation landscapes all up in this area right here. And the idea is to kind of get this water and this point and this point to kind of come together and sort of guide that water around the property and through here. And so the idea is to plant things that will soak up that water and direct it and keep it kind of in this area, and to stop the flow from sort of trickling onwards towards these areas that I want to protect. So that's kind of the first conservation landscape area that I want to install. And the second one is going to be here. So I need something that will capture the water that's going from my neighbor to the side of the house and impacting the foundation. So basically I want that conservation landscape to extend kind of all up in this area. So the idea is to turn all of this space into a conservation landscape. And the third and last is right up here. So I've got a downspout that is creating pooling issues next to some trees that I planted recently. And so I definitely want to install something that is going to kind of capture that water and let it soak into the ground right here. So this is my rough sketch. This is not a design yet. It's a way for me to see the land clearly before I make any big decisions, and then start to zoom in afterwards. I'm sharing this because planning can feel overwhelming, and I know everyone approaches it differently. If you have feedback, ideas, or a planning process you swear by, I'd really love for you to share it in the comments so that we can all kind of start to learn from each other. And in the next video, I'll zoom in one of these conservation areas and start to go into more specifics. And if you want to see how all this pans out, hit subscribe, and let's get going.